What's going on with General Motors? Get that plant open or sell it to somebody and they'll open it. Get it going now, and the UAW will help you.
2020 Democrats signaling their plans to pack the Supreme Court.
The Democrats want to turn the court into a sort of legislature.
AOC is already the star of GOP campaign ads.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she has the media, she has the followers, but bless her heart, she has some terrible ideas.
It's so great. From New York, that's a headline right there. 41% say they can't afford to live.
The tax structure up here doesn't make any sense. I sent them thank you notes. Thank you, Governor Cuomo. Raise more taxes when more people are moving.
The Powerball jackpot swelling to $625 million after no one won last night. It's now the fourth largest prize ever.
See, Journey does have more than two songs. Stop Believing. And there's an example.
Sure. Yeah. Welcome, Jed. Good to have you. Ainsley's out once again. She'll be back next week.
Been a blast.
I think the whole idea of City of Hope has to do with what the president was doing yesterday in Lima, Ohio.
I just have to say this. It turns out the name of the song is Don't Stop Believing. I said Stop Believing. That changes the whole meaning of the song. Okay.
So anyway, the president essentially said, don't stop believing that we're bringing jobs back to America. It was his 10th visit of his presidency to the all-important state of Ohio. There he is at the Joint Manufacturing Center, the last U.S. tank plant in operation. You know what? At one point, that facility had been down to 75 employees. Today, it has 600, and they announced yesterday they're going to hire another 400.
Yeah, that's right. Let's take a listen to President Trump on manufacturing jobs and what he had to say.
After so many years of budget cuts and layoffs, today jobs are coming back and pouring back, frankly, like never before. Production is ramping up in the awesome M1 Abrams tank is once again thundering down the assembly line. We have the best economy we've ever had. We have the lowest unemployment that we've had in 51 years. Soon will be the record all time. And what's going on with General Motors? Get that plant open or sell it to somebody and they'll open it. Everybody wants it. Get it going now, and the UAW will help you.
He did so much right. While all the other candidates are talking about eating dirt in Beto O'Rourke's case to change their luck, or packing the court like everybody else, or giving away free money for doing nothing, the president goes, I'm going to Ohio. I'm going to tell people not what I hope to do, but what I actually did. I'm not going to just put down unions like most Republicans. I'm going to say, UAW, I need you as a partner. A lot of people think that's brilliant. And I think the president's record is so smart that he goes there. But the problem is he swamped his own message by going after George Conway, and in that speech, inexplicably segueing to go after John McCain. It makes absolutely no sense. Number one, John McCain passed away 6 months ago. They actually had a rivalry. You know what? John McCain got in George Bush's face. John McCain got in Bill Clinton's face. John McCain was all over Barack Obama, and I get it. But for him to bring these two things up, it takes away from him crushing the caliphate, and it takes away from his great economic message, where 71% of the people are happy, and they point over 50% credit him.
And of course, he was there to talk about the jobs, and that leads us to our next item, and that is when you look at the parts of America where Donald Trump is really popular. When you know that famous blue state, red state map that shows that the president of the United States, Donald Trump, won so much of the heartland. In the New York Times today, Paul Krugman has written an item, and that goes to show you, and who's in those red states? A lot of farmers and things like that. And that in this New York Times editorial that's titled "Getting Real About Rural America," Paul Krugman talks a lot about the fact that that's where Trump is popular, and that's why right now all these Democrats are out in Iowa saying essentially, "Hey, farmers, I understand your pain."
Yeah, we actually have a quote from the article. It says, and politically, rural America is increasingly a world apart. Not surprisingly, rural America is also pretty much the only place where Donald Trump remains popular. Despite the damage his trade wars have done to the farm economy, his net approval is vastly higher in rural areas than it is in the rest of the country. Now, that's one quote from the article. The article goes on to really be quite not so nice, shall we say, toward many folks in rural America. And it says crazy things. At one point, point, he's talking about, he says, white people living mainly in rural areas. For them, it is about blood and soil, about traditional patriarchy and racial hierarchy. And I just wonder, you know.
He wrote that in a blog in 2016.
Oh, yeah, right, exactly. Okay, but the point is folks on the left here, you didn't get the message that when Trump won the election because you criticized vast parts of the country. Everybody who supported Trump was racist. Everybody who supported Trump was sexist. Maybe take a look at the fact that a lot of these Trump supporters, they voted for Donald Trump because he was a businessman. They were looking at their taxes. They were looking at their dinner table issues. So stop insulting whole segments of the country. Take a minute and say, wait a second, maybe we aren't addressing these issues in a way that people feel that we're actually reaching out to them and hearing what their needs are.
He also talked about how the Electoral College is unfair. And he said because rural voters matter even more because our political system gives rural voters hugely disproportionate weight to less populous states, which are also generally states with relatively rural populations. So in other words, the smaller states have the same kind of weight as the bigger states, and it's just not fair.
But Steve, you also know that's not true because Texas
I'm just
has
telling you what
he
said.
But he doesn't know how to do math, and that's why when you go to Paul Krugman's column, you know you could flip the page and not miss anything because he's just angry because everything he predicted from who's going to win the election to what's going to happen with the economy has turned on its head. So therefore, he's rushing around looking for credibility, and that's not going to help him. Meanwhile, let's talk to some of the biggest story that I think hits more households and kitchen tables than anybody else, and that is this college admission story. When you find out, especially if you're a grandparent, know what your grandkids are going through, if you're a parent trying to get your kids through it, or if you're a kid in the middle of college, you can relate to this story. What parents have done who are, let's say, very rich to get their kids into schools they don't belong in, and it seems in many cases they're putting them in sports they don't even play. Now, first on the high-profile story, Lori Loughlin. Her daughter, Olivia Jade, is a self-made success story on social media. She has a lot of followers. She has thousands of dollars and a lot of sponsors. Sephora and Tresemme, I don't really use that, Tresemme, have dropped her now because she was turned out as part of the scandal where their parents wrote a $250,000 check just for her to get into USC, a college she didn't want to get into, and she, according to according to Entertainment Tonight, is mad at them.
Yeah, full quote from Entertainment Tonight. Olivia is really angry with her parents because she told them she did not want to go to college and she was pushed, the source added. She has been passionate about her career and wanted to work and was doing well, but that wasn't enough. Her parents said she would have to juggle college and her career. Now she's devastated because everything she built imploded before her eyes. She feels they ruined everything. Honestly, I don't blame her in this case because she was telling them outright, this is my passion. This is where I'm putting my time, my effort. I want to be a successful businesswoman in this area. You're pushing me to go to college, and look, but
Jen, it's not that they push you to go to college. I think a lot of parents would do that if your kid has early success. Right. But I think it's the way she got into a college she didn't belong in because her parents cheated the system to get two kids in there. They'd have dropped out. The USC story is expanded to 60. 60 kids have been scrutinized by the student body to say you don't belong here. Only 3, it turns out, are getting extra scrutiny. And look at the men's lacrosse team at USC because evidently they got some questionable characters on their team who don't even play lacrosse.
So of these 60 students who were scrutinized by the school, 57 of them have been essentially cleared. It looks like at this point, probably they will be allowed to stay. But the school does say that students linked to the scandal cannot register for classes or get transcripts because they've been caught up in the scandal, as has Lauren Isaacson. You know her. Of course, she's famously from the UCLA women's soccer roster. That is one of the most elite soccer teams, but here's the thing.
They got like 4 national team players on it.
She barely played soccer before she went there, and her parents, to the tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars, put money in the hands of people who got her in, got her on the squad, and yet she didn't play.
She had to go to the game for a year. Steve, there were some people, and Jedediah, that didn't know their parents put them on the sailing team. She knew she was on a soccer team and got in there for this reason. So you had to show up, played 0 minutes, 0 time, in 0 games. We don't know what she did at practice because she's playing with the best players in the world. So this coach obviously is implicated. Prosecutors say her parents, Davina and Bruce, spent more than $600,000 to get her, Lauren, and her sister sister into UCLA and USC with fake athletic scholarships.
Infuriating, by the way, mostly to think about all of those students who did earn it, who actually were on those high school teams,
right,
who actually had the grades, took their own SATs, wrote their own college applications, and didn't get into those schools because those positions were taken by students who shouldn't have been there, whose parents were paying people off. That is infuriating.
They took their own SATs?
Can you imagine?
People still do
I
that?
took my own SATs.
Well, put it this way. This parent gave 2,150 shares of Facebook to get their kid in, and he was caught on tape saying, "I hope I don't end up on the front page of a newspaper somewhere." Sir, Mr. Isaacson, you are.
Yep.
So anyway, that's the latest on the college scandal. What's happening in the news? Jillian joins us.
A lot is happening in the news.
Right?
Good morning. So let's start off with this Fox News alert. The main suspect in the Dutch tram shooting will be charged with murder or manslaughter with terrorist intent. Prosecutors releasing a statement just moments ago. Gakman Tanis is accused of killing 3 people and injuring several others when he opened fire in the city of Utrecht this week. I don't know if I said that right, but we'll see. Authorities believe the Turkish immigrant acted alone. He's expected in court tomorrow. Also breaking right now, New Zealand bans high-powered military-style weapons days after the deadly mosque attacks. It's expected to start next month. The government is also working on a buyback program so police can destroy the guns. Those who don't turn over their firearms could face fines and prison time. This as we learn the shooting suspect planned a 3rd attack before he was stopped by authorities. And how about this? Joe Biden is reportedly considering a White House run with Stacey Abrams as his running mate. According to Axios, advisors for the former vice president are debating whether or not to package his 2020 announcement with a promise to choose Abrams as his VP. Abrams, a Democrat, narrowly lost her run for Georgia governor during last year's midterm elections. She met with Biden in Washington last week. Former President George W. Bush is celebrating his first hole-in-one. The 43rd president posting this picture from the Warrior Open tournament in Dallas, which benefits injured military members. The former president says his next golf goal is to live to be 100 so he can shoot his age. He's 72 years old right now. That is
Congratulations.
Awesome. I love that.
I don't know what that would feel like.
Nope, me either.
But congratulations. He was president and a hole-in-one.
Yep.
And the one thing about him, the way he plays, they say he plays speed golf.
Whole family.
Speed golf.
They don't wait for you to take the shot. They just go right. They say, go up to your ball and hit it. Don't worry about us. So you get through it into it. Doesn't matter.
I do that in mini golf, Brian.
I did hit the president. I did hit the president.
What?
Number 1, I'm a terrible golfer. And number 2 is I went by his rules. He said, when you get to your ball, hit it. And I almost hit him. He said Secret Service was going to just jump on you if I didn't push him back.
Did you hit him or you almost hit him?
I almost hit him, except for he had great hip movement, was able to avoid my chip. When I chip, no one knows what's happening, including me. Maybe my club does.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
13 minutes after the hour. The left likes to say that a border wall would have no impact on the drug crisis. Is that true? The president's drug czar says not, especially fentanyl, mostly coming from China. Our next guest says the border wall would be a weapon against these illegal drugs. Let's welcome in Jim Carroll, U.S. drug czar. Jim, a year ago, you guys put out a proposal there to attack prescription drugs and this opioid crisis. That was March 19, 2018. How have you done?
Good morning, Brian. Thank you so much for having me on. We really have made progress in our efforts, and you just flashed a picture of meth there that was seized. What we have to do is save American lives. That's the bottom line. That's what the president is committed to doing, and that's why we're taking all the steps that we are.
So you're doing it with doctors the legal way, talking about prescriptions, trying to write less, realizing the impact of it. But at the border, in the ports of entry and beyond, that's where they're coming through, where you can't control.
Absolutely. So you mentioned prescriptions, and so prescriptions alone, and that's one of the key things that our office and the president has been driving. Prescriptions for opioids are down 20% in the last year. Almost all the drugs that are killing Americans are coming in from overseas. And so what we have to do is stop them from coming in every way that they can, including building a wall at the southern border.
Right. So far, in a year, seizures of fentanyl have increased by more than 468%. Meth seizures have increased by more than 38%. That shows the blizzard of drugs is still coming in. But does it also show we're getting better at stopping it?
What it shows is that there's more and more drugs coming in addition to people like Customs and Border Patrol, Border Protection, Border Patrol, as well as the state, local, and federal law enforcement really trying. And just to be clear, you know that 468% increase in fentanyl coming in, that is just between the ports of entry along our southern border. Wow. 400 pounds of fentanyl, which, as you know, just a few grains can kill a human. It's so critical that we do everything we can.
People say, well, a lot of it comes through the ports of entry because that's where we get it. It doesn't mean it's not coming through other places that we don't even know. It's not that we don't know what we don't know when it comes to the border because we don't have the whole thing monitored or blocked.
Absolutely. If you were worried about someone breaking into your house, you wouldn't just lock the front door, you'd also lock the back door. And that's what we need to do. We need to beef up our ports of entry, but we also need to make sure that we're securing the border where there is no wall and driving these drug traffickers to the ports of entry where we have more law enforcement and we can take action.
Right. It's got to be all hands on deck, and I think the whole country can get behind that. Jim Carroll, Director of the U.S. Office of National Drug Enforcement Policy, the drug czar, thanks so much.
Thank you, Brian.
You got it. 10 minutes before the bottom of the hour. Huckabee for president in 2040? Coming up, the former governor on the possibility. And we showed you this video yesterday, the awesome moment a soldier dad surprises his son. They both will join. $0.6 million. That's how much the Republican National Committee raised last month. That's pretty good. The RNC setting a record for the most money raised in February during a non-election year. Next, 38 minutes. That's how long a 71-year-old man held a plank position for, that's breaking a Guinness World Record. I don't know how you do that forward in 2 minutes. That broke it for his age group. The Minnesota man did it on his birthday. And finally, and this is the hardest one to find, the third spot. Here we go. $44. That's all you need to get a ticket on select JetBlue flights. The airline's spring sale ends tomorrow. With that, Steve and Jed, take it away.
Thanks, Brian. 9-year-old Luca Sesternino gets the surprise of a lifetime at martial arts practice when he finally realizes his sparring partner isn't just any old mashup.
So there we go.
Daddy?
That's his dad, U.S. Army Staff Sergeant Rob Sesternino, shocking his son after arriving home from a nearly year-long deployment.
Well, U.S. Army Staff Sergeant Rob Sesternino and his son Luca join us right now from Nashville. Guys, good morning to you.
Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having us.
Usually we start with the grown-up, but Luca, I got to start with you. At what point did you realize that the guy you were fighting while you were wearing that blindfold was your dad?
Well, the reason why I recognized him was the sound of his voice.
Yeah.
And him calling me Shib.
Because that's your nickname, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Luca, how did you feel when you realized, when you took that blindfold off and you saw your dad standing there? The whole world was watching. I was crying. How did you feel in that moment?
Sad, happy.
Because you hadn't seen your dad in a while, right?
Nope, I haven't seen him in a year.
Yeah.
Wow.
Staff Sergeant, before that embrace that we're looking at right there, he was letting you have it pretty good. Your son has gotten really good at Taekwondo.
I was afraid that a member of the Tennessee Army National Guard was going to go down pretty easy. I was concerned because I called him Shib the first time and he didn't respond, and I'm like, wow, this may not end up like my wife had planned.
Staff Sergeant, were you surprised by the outpouring of people when they saw this? I mean, seeing that moment with the two of you, you hadn't seen each other in so long. For all of us out here, that illustrated just how deep and wonderful the sacrifice is that you and so many of our men and women in uniform make. How have you felt with the outpouring from people who have been crying and feeling so much emotion watching this?
Well, you know, here in the Tennessee, the 230 Sustained Brigade, we're the volunteer state. And the Tennessee Army National Guard, we always have people deployed. I mean, the 278th is on a rotation in Poland and the Ukraine, so we're always moving. I wasn't surprised. You know, sometimes, unfortunately, we get wrapped around with the negative, but our lives in America truly are so positive every day. It's exactly what I expected from our country.
Well, there you go. Luca, you know, when you finally were able to hug your dad right there in that picture we're looking at, you can tell you missed him a lot. What does your dad mean to you?
A lot. Really a lot.
Like what? When he was gone, deployed, what did you miss?
It's him, hanging out with him.
Hanging out with him. All right. So now you're back home for a while, right, Staff Sergeant?
Yes, sir.
For until the Army calls you and says, okay, here's your next assignment, right?
Absolutely. 230 Sustained Brigade, Old Hickory Volunteers. They call, we move.
There you go. And at one point, you mentioned your wife's plan. Whose idea was this to have Luca fight 3 Taekwondo fighters blindfolded?
So my wife Leah worked with Jason Warren, who's Luca's Taekwondo instructor, and our friend Helene Cash, and they were just brainstorming ideas on how to surprise Luca when I got home. And so I got home a little bit early, and the minute I got off the plane, it was like my wife put me in witness protection. She took me to a hotel. She would not let me call my friends, let them home. She said, I love you, but you can't be trusted to keep a secret.
Luca, I got to tell you. Oh, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So then we showed up and everything went off like clockwork. It was really, really well run, and it's all because of the work of my wife and Luca's karate instructor.
Wow. Staff Sergeant, I want to thank you on behalf of us, and I'm sure everyone at home, so much for your service and so much for this beautiful moment that enabled us all to be so thankful for that service. And Luca, I got to tell you, I've done some of that, blindfolded stuff that you were doing. You're better than me. You got a long career ahead of you, kid. Good job.
Thanks.
You bet. Luca,
Thank you very much.
I know today's a school day. You're going to go to school here after the TV appearance. Any idea?
Hopefully not. Hopefully I'm crossing my fingers not.
Well, maybe your
Never know.
you want to hang out with your dad, then just skip school. Who cares? Of course, everybody knows you're healthy because they're watching you on TV. Luca, what do you want to be when you grow up? Sky's the limit.
Sergeant.
Staff Sergeant. You want to be just like your dad.
That's pretty fabulous.
Dad just went like that.
I think you'd
Mission
make a great
accomplished.
staff sergeant one day, and you have those fighting skills you're already working on. Really, really impressive. Such a great duo and such a great story. Thank you guys so much for bringing this to the center and reminding us all how much our men and women in uniform do for us every single day. Thank you both.
You're welcome.
Thank you for your time, and God bless the United States.
God bless you both.
God bless you both. All right.
A Jewish Democrat confronted at a town hall about Congresswoman Omar's anti-Semitism.
And I approve this message because I'll stand up to socialism.
Well, there you go. Michelle Nix is running in the 3rd District of North Carolina. And as you can see right there, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is the star.
Sure is.
All right, let's bring in Mike Huckabee, Fox News contributor, former governor of Arkansas, former presidential candidate, and the author of a great book. It's called Rare, Medium, or Well Done, Make the Most of Your Life. Mike, good morning to you.
Good morning, everybody. Good to be with you guys.
It's good to have you.
So is it about time we saw an ad already on AOC and maybe Republicans have something to go on? Is this a template for the president?
You know, it's amazing how big a deal she has become to be a 29-year-old with no major accomplishments to her credit other than making some really bizarre policy pronouncements about the new Green Deal and getting rid of the Amazon jobs in New York. She's making quite a name for herself, and I hope that she continues to be the face of the Democratic Party. It's the best thing that Donald Trump and the Republicans have going for them in 2020.
Right. Somebody's writing her questions. I saw the questions at Michael Cohen and saw the questions at Wilbur Ross, and there are some forces behind her. I think there's a story there.
Well, there very well could be. I know there has been some allegations that she was almost like the Manchurian candidate, recruited, prepared. I don't know, but the point is that she got her voters out. Now, I think that there's going to be a lot of New Yorkers who would love to have seen those 25,000 Amazon jobs that may turn out in force and say, thank you, but no thank you. Bye-bye. 2 years is all we can handle.
Governor, we see the far left wing of the Democratic Party feeling terribly empowered these days. We're in the midst of a border security crisis. And in the midst of that, you have Senator Kirsten Gillibrand coming out and saying that illegals must have the right to Social Security. Take a listen.
We need comprehensive immigration reform. If you are in this country now, you must have the right to pay into Social Security, to pay your taxes, to pay into the local school system, and to have a pathway to citizenship.
Your reaction to that, Governor?
Yeah, I double dog dare her to go to an AARP meeting and get up and say, look, we're going to freeze your Social Security. We may even cut it because we're going to take it from your grandma and you, and we're going to give it to people who are here illegally. I know that'll be a popular statement to make to a lot of Americans who have worked their heinies off their whole life to put money into Social Security and now would have it threatened by Kirsten Gillibrand, who would give it away to people who didn't pay into Social Security and who have no right to get the benefits of Social Security. So if that's the Democrats' platform, good for them.
Well, let's see what happens with that. Meanwhile, one of the other freshman members of the Democratic Party in the U.S. Congress is Ilhan Omar, and they're pictured right there. She has famously apologized for some of the anti-Semitic tropes and things that she has referred to. Nancy Pelosi asked her specifically to apologize, and she did. They were going to have that anti-Semitic resolution, but then the Democrats caved on that and just did an anti-hate resolution. But Governor Max Rose, who is a congressman from New York State, he apologized to his constituents in Staten Island, I believe, and said this about the comments that Omar made.
I was horrified and saddened when she made the comments that she did. So horrified that as a freshman member of Congress, I stepped in front of my party leadership, and I was the first member of the Democratic Party to criticize her.
He was horrified at Omar's comments. Governor?
Well, she has made the statement that if you support Israel, you're supporting a foreign country over the U.S. I would suggest to her she do a little study, maybe get acquainted with reality, and find out that when you support Israel, you're actually supporting the interest of the United States because they mirror our interest. They are a free democracy. They're based on the same Judeo-Christian platform of understanding of human nature that we are. They are for freedom. They also are our partner in fighting terrorism. They're not terrorists. They fight it. And she really needs to get a first-hand education on the value of our relationship. And she'd understand why many Americans recognize that our alliance with Israel is not because of just some blind allegiance to Israel. It's because of our absolute loyalty to the United States and its best interest.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And lastly, you had a tweet that got some notice. You tweeted this out, Governor. Bernie 76, Biden 76, Bernie 77, Biden 76. Shoot, man, I might have a shot again in 2040. Hang on to those yard signs from 2008 and 2016. You going to bide your time, use some moisturizer?
Oh, looky there.
Listen, I want to tell you something. In 2040, I'll just be in my early 80s, and 80 will be the new 50. So I'm figuring, I've got the T-shirts, a warehouse full of them. I've got
a warehouse full of them.
I've got everything we need. I've got the stickers. So 2040, baby. Let's go ahead and get this thing going.
I love it.
You got it. See, how old will Chuck Norris be then?
He'll still be fit. Don't worry about it. He can come out fighting. It doesn't matter if he's 110. He's still going to be capable of taking down anybody who challenges him. Don't worry about that.
Who challenges you. All right, Governor.
Thanks, Governor.
Absolutely.
Good luck with that campaign. I wonder what the top issue is. It'll be like Space Force.
Early
How
start,
big?
Bro. Early start.
It is. You're the first one to declare for 2040. Congratulations.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
All right. Thank you, Mike. All right, 20 minutes now before the top of the hour, and Jillian joins us.
And that's right. Good morning. And then, by the way, that's something you're only going to hear here on Fox. 2040.
No, you never know.
Nowhere else to
He
get
might
it.
go on CNN and try.
Exactly. All right, let's get you caught up on this. A man walks up to a woman and punches her in the face. The seemingly random attack caught on camera in New York City. Police now looking for that man in the blue sweatshirt who ran away as the woman fell to the ground. You see that? This was in broad daylight. She drove herself to the hospital with a head injury. Well, nearly 2,000 hotel guests were secretly filmed in hotel rooms as paying customers watched. Police say cameras were hidden inside TV boxes, wall sockets, and hairdryer holders at 30 hotels in South Korea. At least 2 people are under arrest. Investigators say there is no indication that the hotels knew about the scheme. The former New York Times fact checker who infamously smeared an American hero got a new gig at NYU. Talia Lavin will teach an undergraduate course called, quote, Reporting on the Far Right this fall. Lavin claimed wounded Marine Justin Gerner's arm tattoo was a symbol of Nazi Germany when it's actually a symbol for the platoon he fought with in Afghanistan. Do you ever feel like time is just flying by and you want it back?
Click it. Click it. This is last Tuesday.
Michael was eagerly awaiting the arrival of his lunch order.
Well, science shows time seems to pass more quickly the older we get. Researchers pointing to maturing nerves and neurons, which slows down the rate at which new mental images are processed.
Can you go into more detail on that?
Nope.
Are you sure? Because I don't quite get it. I don't know what the heck you're talking about.
I don't either.
All right.
It sounds like just like everything else in your body, they just kind of wear out.
Right.
The neutrons.
That's what I would have used.
Thanks, Steve.
Somebody not worn out is Janice Dean. She's in the prime of her life, and time's going very slow for her.
Oh, very nice. It is raining out here in New York City. Not too bad, though. Hi, folks. What are your names? Where are you from?
I'm Sandy from Orlando.
Jean from Colorado.
Patrick from Orlando.
George from Dallas.
Nicely done. You're all correct. Let's take a look at the maps across the New York City area. It's 43, 37 in Chicago. We do have a coastal low, so if this was a little bit colder, this would be a big snowmaker across the Northeast. Mainly rain along the East Coast, but we are going to see some interior snow across the mountainous regions, across New England over the next several hours. But a lot of rain. We could see the potential for flooding, unfortunately, across the mid-Atlantic parts of the Northeast. And this will be an area of low pressure along the coast. So it would be a nor'easter, but we won't be talking about snow. The other big story, of course, will be the flooding across the Midwest, which we will cover over the next couple of weeks. All right, wave to Jedediah and Brian and Steve.
Morning, folks.
Yay, good morning.
Good to have you. Thank you very much.
There you go.
Thanks, Janice.
All right. Meanwhile, straight ahead, President Trump is set to take a big stand.
Does not allow free speech and practices violence on innocent people with a different point of view. No federal funds? Question mark. Well, Berkeley, as you know, has been ground zero in many ways of the free speech movement. Violent protests and surging security costs have led to campuses effectively silencing conservative free speech. Of course, many of you saw that on full display on the infamous assault last month and the Turning Point USA recruiter by that guy, Zach Greenberg. So now the president said on campus, be fair or else.
If they want our dollars, and we give it to them by the billions, they've got to allow people like Hayden and many other great young people and old people to speak. Free speech.
You heard the president there, so they're going to put more teeth behind the enforcement. Guys, join us today right around 3:15. Of course, I'll be here for you.